Hello, my name is Dale DuFay, and welcome to the YouTube channel, The Mandela Effect Equals Everything. Now, this channel used to be called The Mandela Effect Equals Knowledge, and The Mandela Effect Equals Enlightenment, and every time I tried to type in those words, everything would come up on the suggested bar. And it came to it suddenly occurred to me, well, yeah, basically, the Mandela Effect does equal everything. It really does, because I had a comment where someone was saying this is real, and indeed it is very real. And they were asking what the F is going on. And I remember it kind of made me recall when I first realized the Mandela effect was affecting me. And that's the one thing, thank goodness it's affecting a lot of people, because otherwise you'd think you were crazy if it was just happening to you. But it's, and also it's not happening to everybody. That's what makes it perplexing and confusing. Why isn't everyone else seeing these differences that we perceive as changes? So that just adds to the confusion. And, so I kind of recall when I first realized. I mean, I heard about the Mandela effect, and I wasn't even interested in it and everything. And then sometimes life can be so busy, you're just only noticing your immediate, surroundings and whatnot, and not really the big picture of what's going on. Like, it's not every day you look at the globe, and the atlas or Google Earth and everything. So it could easily, if you may not even notice anything. But when the changes, what we perceive as changes, the differences are so drastic, then, something's up. But I wasn't even at that point. I just wasn't interested in it. I knew it was something about memory, the Mandela effect. And I kept, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos about our moon. And because I've always been very interested in it. And there was really never anything on TV, even cable TV. So I'd go to YouTube and watch these really, informative videos about a lot of topics, including the moon, but certainly never really the Mandela effect. And then finally I kept getting suggestions on YouTube after I finished a video. They'd have a little column of suggestions, and there was always about the Mandela effect, popping up. And I was like, what the heck, Obviously, I'm not interested in it. I always bypass them. But finally, one popped up about Sally Fields. And I've always been a fan of hers my whole entire life. And I thought, well, maybe I'd check it out, And that's when my life turned around big time, like many of you out there. Like that person that left that comment, what the F is going on? It's, again, I recall my first experience when I realized it. And that again was watching that video about Sally Fields' acceptance speech in the Academy Awards. And I remember her reaction when she won, and her speech and everything. I remember it very well. And then watching a video about her and the Mandela effect, I realized, well, wait a minute, she said something completely different, and her reaction was different and everything. And so then I started getting curious, and I started watching more videos. And then I watched one about Oscar Mayer, and I remember that very well. I used to sing that ad jingle all the time. I used to swing on my swing set and sing it and everything. And it's funny. It was just a good jingle. I always sang it. And I always definitely remember it being M-E-Y-E-R. And then I was watching a video, and they were saying it's M-A-Y-E-R. And I was thinking, no, how could that be? It's impossible. So I looked in the refrigerator, and sure enough, we had some Oscar Mayer products in there, and it was M-A-Y-E-R. And that just, floored me. I immediately went to my room, which was a real nice room. It had the bathroom attached to it and everything. It was real private because there was other people living in the house. And of course, none of them were affected with the Mandela effect. I didn't realize, at that point, I still didn't realize what was going on. But I knew that this was something very, very serious. This is something that just doesn't, change overnight. And, did research, of course, and realized that it was always MAYER. And I'm like, no, no, it isn't, So at that point, I did totally freak out, and I was very scared. And I remember the only comfort I can get was praying about it. I prayed probably for 3 hours straight about it in the bathroom. I had to go to the bathroom because I had to, just joking, of course, but I literally had to check my pants, because I did practically crap my pants when I realized it was MAYER, and it always has been when I knew otherwise. But I just, prayed about it, asking what is going on. I see that, like the comment the person made, they said, this is real. It is real, very real. And so that got me to, that I suddenly realized that this must be something very, very, very important. Because something like this, I mean, who would have ever expected the Mandela effect? I mean, honestly, who would have ever expected something like this to happen? I swear I have ghosts in this place. This is like a trailer we're working on, a mobile home. And that's another point I want to bring across. You have to really just go about your life and your business and make the best of it. And you can't really discuss it with other people because, again, majority of the people are not affected by the Mandela effect, probably 99% or more. So, they're to them, this reality has always existed. And that's another important point. And I want to make it clear that I didn't get any answers, spiritual answers and prayers and things like that. But the prayers were answered in a sense that it's hard to describe it, but it's like the answers are out there for everybody. They're right in front of our face. The answers are there. You just have to, look for them. And I think you have to realize too that it is a very, spiritual event, and therefore, in a sense, very holy. And I'm convinced that it's a prophesized event as well. And as many of you know who've been watching my channels and my videos over the years, I'm not theocratic or religious. I mean, I am Christian. I was always raised a Christian. That's why I realized that, wow, this is something very special that has never happened before. That has, something serious is going on. I mean, we can't, again, you can't, these things don't happen overnight. Our body doesn't change overnight. The size of the earth doesn't change overnight. The location of our solar system within the galaxy does not change overnight. I recall the solar system being on the outer edges of the Sagittarius arm. That is 75,000 light years from here. So how could, that happen? But again, it's very holy, very spiritual, and an incredible event. Just like the history that's happening around us every day, politics and things like that. We're witnessing history, and then amongst it all, here's this Mandela effect going on, which is again very, very, very spiritual. I got a kitten here. I've taken care of like 3 kittens, and you're walking right in front of me. That's another thing. It's always very difficult to do videos, which makes me wonder. And I do these videos really for my own therapy. I'm not claiming to have all the answers or anything like that, but the way I see it, it is spiritual, it is holy, and it is prophesized. I'm convinced that it's in Revelation chapter 10, verse 7. I've always wondered about that verse ever since I was a kid, even. Because, again, we were raised Christian, and my grandmother was a minister, and she knew the Bible inside and out, forward and backwards. And Revelation always appealed to me because it is a revelation about our time right now. John witnessed our time right now and prophesied about it in every reality. So I was always curious about that verse. And the Bible translation we were raised on was the New World's translation of the Holy Scriptures. And that referred to, in chapter 10, verse 7, as the sacred secret being good news and being revealed to his servants, the slaves. So I was always wondering, what the heck is this sacred secret, I was always very interested in that. And then if you look at other Bible translations, it's also known as the mystery of God. And then I have a really cool Bible. I can't remember the translation, the name on it right now. I should have had it with me, but because that's one of my favorite Bibles currently. But it calls it the hidden plan will be revealed, the hidden plan. And there was actually a bullet point in this particular version, translation. They had bullet points, and only about 100 of them throughout the whole Bible. And lo and behold, one of the bullet points is right next to that hidden plan in Revelation chapter 10, verse 7. And then you go to the back of the Bible and look up, the bullet point of a hidden plan, and it says a secret that has been known but never revealed. And according to Revelation 10:7, it says it's going to be revealed right as or just before the seventh angel sounds its trumpet. So, to me, as huge as the Mandela Effect is, and the fact that it's so unexpected and different than anything that we've, thought maybe the end of the system of things or whatever is going to be. Nobody would have expected the Mandela Effect, certainly. It's very, very, very unusual and scary, and, And when I early on, I studied, all the effects and what the Mandela Effect's doing, logos being changed or what we perceive as changed, and then coming to the realization that they're not, nothing's changing whatsoever. That's impossible, because, so what else is it? Well, it's just different, So I got tired of, they're important to see those videos about what the Mandela Effect's doing, but I actually got kind of, I don't want to say tired of them, in a sense. I was more interested in why it's doing it, not what it's doing. I wanted to know why and how and what's going on here. So it came after a few years. I came to the conclusion, after pointing fingers and blaming CERN and other entities and whatnot, I came to the conclusion. I think I actually saw a comment that somebody made that, what if this is, in another video, because I studied and watched other videos, and I was trying to find somebody, a channel I can follow, and there really wasn't anybody out there. It seemed like they were all barking up the wrong tree. In fact, early on, it seemed that people didn't even want to admit that it was a spiritual event. So therefore, if it is spiritual and it is prophesized, then therefore it must be holy. And it was perpetrated by the Supreme Creator. There's no doubt about that, because only the Supreme Creator can take your soul and have have it go 75,000 light years into another replica version of yourself that has always existed. Only the Creator of the soul can do that. It couldn't be some entity or humans or opposition to the Supreme Creator doing it whatsoever. It's impossible. In fact, the powers to be, the gatekeepers and whatnot, humanity right now, do not want us to know what the Mandela Effect is revealing. So therefore, they're going to make it as sinister and cynical and everything they possibly can do to confuse it. So that people don't really understand what's really going on. And what's really going on is it's everything. Again, it's everything. It's revealing everything. Let's just say that it is the prophecy in Revelation chapter 10, verse 7. Let's just say that's true. Let's just say the sacred secret isn't necessarily the Mandela Effect, but the sacred secret or the hidden plan or the mystery of God is what the Mandela Effect is revealing. I mean, think about it. I mean, it's a phenomenon that actually shows us. It doesn't tell us. And of course, it could be taken in many different ways, just like the Bible. And many things could be taken in many different ways. And I think it was honestly meant to be that way. But if you really sit back and you really want to understand what's going on and you pray about it, again, I'm not religious or theocratic, but this is without a doubt a very spiritual thing. And the religious organizations don't want to touch this phenomenon with a 10-foot pole. The one I reached out to and waited months and months to get a reply other than, hey, this is a work of Satan. I finally got convinced that, hey, not only is the Mandela Effect revealing the mysteries of God, but it is also revealing the fact that all religious organizations are alike in a sense. They're all good, but they're also all deceiving and bad. Not, wittingly or anything, but it's the organ. There's no such thing as one true religion. No way. But the Mandela Effect's revealing so many things, including that, because of the fact that religious organizations don't want to talk about it. Again, once that veil starts being unraveled, peel back the corner a little bit, you start seeing the big picture. Again, the answers are right there in front of us. I mean, think about it. You start doing some reasonable deductions, okay? And you eliminate everything that's impossible, like the fact that things are changing. That's impossible. It's impossible. So what else is there left? As improbable as it is, it's revealing that we all, and not just those of us affected, but all life, not just humans, but all life has a parallel existence on a multitude of Earths, or basically in a multitude of realities, which include Earths, of course. Even the Earth is parallel. And the reason we know this is because, again, it was impossible. It's absolutely impossible for our location of the solar system to change 75 or travel 75,000 light years overnight. It's impossible. But the thing that is possible, and science is starting to realize this, that quantum entanglement knows no boundaries. It's endless. And it's Mandela Effect's revealing that. We have replica versions of ourselves that have been sharing our soul since the day we were born that are 75,000 light years apart from one another. No doubt there's some even 1 light year apart. So it's Mandela Effect's revealing that it's not a parallel universe. It's a parallel existence in one universe, in one dimension. Even the other dimensions are parallel. Everything is parallel. And that's what the Mandela Effect's revealing. Without quantum entanglement, we would not even exist. Life would not exist. And that's what the Mandela Effect's revealing. Now think about it. Again, say that is the prophecy of the Mandela Effect, chapter 10, verse 7 in Revelation. Just to say it is. Then in that verse it says the sacred secret or the mystery of God or the hidden plan will be revealed. In some translations, it's even considered good news. And that's the way I take it. We can't be scared. We can't be homesick because the Mandela Effect's revealing that We have always, it's very obvious that we've always been here, whether we are affected with the Mandela effect or not. We've always been in this reality because people don't look at me and say, hey, you're different or you're changed. What's wrong with you? They look at me and see me exactly as I am, Dale DuFay. I'm Dale DuFay in every single reality. So, you know, that the fact is we've always been here. We have always been here. So we have no need to be homesick. Of course, the reality we recall is vastly different, but unusually similar, including the Earth. The Earth I recall, and the reality I recall, was 4 times bigger than this Earth. But yet this Earth is unusually similar to that Earth. And there's so many things that, you know, everything I've ever wondered about my entire life is being answered by what the Mandela Effect is revealing. So there's no need to be scared, homesick, perplexed, confused. I mean, obviously you have to go about your daily life as though, you know, nothing's happened, but something has happened. Yes, it is real. Don't be scared. Don't look at it. Don't point fingers. It wasn't CERN. It's impossible for them to affect the human soul, which is obviously very sacred, very incredible. And who would have known that? I mean, again, that's the sacred secret will be revealed. What is more sacred than life? What has been secret from humans ever since the very beginning of creation is this very fact of what the Mandela Effect's revealing. That is, we have a parallel life on a multitude of Earths. That's, you know, all in the same dimension. Again, it's really important to realize that we're separated by distance. And science, again, is just now understanding that quantum entanglement, again, I mentioned it earlier, knows no boundaries. And what we're doing now in this reality, we're doing in all the realities. There might be a slight delay. The fact that we have deja vu proves that. There might be a slight delay because, again, we're talking about vast, inconceivable distances. 75,000 light years? That's where the reality of the Earth and solar system I recall is. It's still there. It wasn't destroyed because, you know, that's what caused the Mandela Effect. That's not it at all. That reality is still there. We are still there. There's just another portion of your soul in that replica version of yourself that this portion of your soul originated from. Because that's how compatible our soul, each portion of our soul that's splintered and fractured, quite obviously, is in a different replica version of yourself. They're all experiencing the same thing you are. And if those of us that are experiencing the Mandela Effect, every portion of our soul is experiencing it as well. And so if you're trying to get a better understanding of what's going on, then every one of your, every portion of your soul and every reality and every replica version of yourself and every Earth is doing the exact same thing. And that same could be true if you're frightened and homesick and everything. Then all the replica versions of yourself sharing your soul and experiencing the same thing you are going to be feeling the same way. So that's why it's always important to stay positive about it and try to understand and realize just how incredibly important this is. Obviously, it's ushering in something. There might be something natural to causing the Mandela Effect, which is all part of the plan. And that could be the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy could be calving because, you know, contrary to what science, astrophysicists try to tell us that the galaxies are colliding, that's nonsense. They are calving. It's quite obvious. And it makes so much sense. Just as the Earths grow as they age. That's another thing the Mandela Effect's revealing. It's revealing so many incredible things. It's you know, again, you know, everything I've ever wondered about is answered literally. You know, why we get jet lag, why we get deja vu, why humans do the things they do, why can we do this, why can we do that, why does it take practice, on and on and on. Everything is answered by what the Mandela Effect's revealing. So to me, it's very enlightening. To me, it's very educational. To me, it is very holy and phenomenal. So it shouldn't be taken in a sinister way. And it's important to realize that that's exactly what the powers to be want us to think. They know about the Mandela effect, and they probably know what it's, how life is and what it's revealing, and the fact that we've always, we have to keep in mind that it's always been like this. And a secret means that something that has always been but never known. And that's the way I look at the Mandela effect and what it's revealing. It's revealing things that have always been yet never known until now, until the Mandela effect, which again is prophesizing. And to me, this thing was so important and so phenomenal that it had to be a prophecy. Think about it. Now, the Bible, I think, was meant to be a riddle, but to me, it's always shows little clues, and they're usually in the big stories. And of course, Revelation is very important. I don't think it's in chronological order as it's written out, but we are at the point, say if Revelation 10:7 is the prophecy of the Mandela effect, then that means the seventh angel is about to sound its trumpet. So what that means, who knows? Again, who would have expected the Mandela effect to have, to be part of a prophecy, or to, and it makes sense, because everybody's just anticipating this, anticipating that, and so on and so forth. But nobody anticipated the Mandela effect, So it's been going on for many years, and it's affecting millions of people. And then I've always, pondered on certain people that would affect more. It's revealing that people that have an occupation where they have to make a lot of decisions, make one choice from a lot of choices to choose from. Those are the people that have a lot of variety from reality. And that's why we see differences in movies and things like that. It's amazing what the Mandela effect's revealing. Personally, every reality that this portion of my soul has been allowed to coalesce into has been virtually identical. Every decision I've ever made in the past, every replica version of myself has made the exact same decision. So, but I know my case isn't typical, and I'm grateful that it's not, because I imagine some people, and I know I've heard and I've seen videos where some people are experience drastic differences, additional family members, missing family members, things like that. But again, I'm fortunate. In my case, everything has been identical. So that, to me, proves that the parallel universe theory is correct in some senses, but it's not, they assume that every decision you can make, you do make. But that's not the case. In every reality, I've made the exact same decisions. So that, again, kind of rules out that theory. It's definitely parallel, and it's one universe, not, each reality in a different universe. It's not like that at all. Besides, there's plenty of room in this galaxy for multiple, virtually infinite realities to exist. And no doubt, I love looking up at the night sky now. I remember when I was a teenager in Colorado up in the mountains, and I got, for the first time, to see the Milky Way. And it was unbelievable. You could see why they called it the Milky Way. It was pure white. But here, it's different in the night sky. And that makes sense because we're in a completely different location in the galaxy. So, of course, it's going to be different, but it's still there. But I love looking up at the stars and the constellations in particular, say Orion's belt, and realizing that there's no doubt Earth's orbiting those stars, and we are there. And the sun we look at now, the sun that this Earth orbits, is obviously a star that we can see from another reality, perhaps Orion's belt. Our sun could be a star in Orion's belt from another point of view in the galaxy, even, several light years away. So that's really interesting, to understand that. And it makes sense. Again, science is realizing it. They split an atom or proton, and everything the one half does, the other half does instantaneously, and they could spread them apart. It doesn't matter. They realize that it doesn't matter how far apart they are. They will do the, so our body is made up of all atoms and everything. So naturally, we are quantumly entangled to other replica versions of ourselves that are doing the exact same thing you are, or you're doing the exact same thing they are. And that's what life is all about. That's the sacred secret that's being revealed. And it's incredible what it's revealing. So there's, people that are just now realizing they're affected or a part of this. That's just look at it for what it is. Don't be homesick. It's a wonderful and a miraculous thing to be a part of. And it's also really important to realize that it's obviously ushering in something. Something very important is going to happen to humanity. Because this is something that's never been, what the Mandela Effect's revealing has never been revealed in the entire history of humanity. Adam and Eve probably didn't even know that they were, that there was perhaps infinite versions of themselves throughout the entire Milky Way galaxy in this creation of life. That's another thing that Mandela Effect's revealing. Obviously, we were created. Obviously, humans have always been like this. We have always been like this, and our souls have been recycled throughout human history. And every time we get rebirth, we just start off with a clean slate and start all over again. But this is the first generation, if you will, that's of humanity that's experiencing the Mandela Effect. And by experiencing the Mandela Effect, we are being shown what life is all about. Again, I always make this real clear. It's not me telling you this. It's the Mandela Effect showing you this. And it's important that it shows it to you and not tells you. What better way to show us than to experience another reality that we've always existed in that we never knew about? I would have thought that life was even this close to the galactic center. I know the astrophysicists, who also, of course, have a parallel existence, the one, the versions of themselves on the outer reaches would have never dreamed that we could be in here. And the versions of themselves in here would never dream that life can exist on the outer reaches of the galactic galaxy or any galactic arm. But indeed they do. And indeed they live in here as well. The whole entire Milky Way galaxy is habitable. And it appears, though, I like to say that the Mandela Effect is vindicating the expanding Earth theory. That's been around since the mid-30s, early 30s. There's some German geologists that came to the conclusion that the Earth is expanding. It's infinitesimal, of course, but it is indeed expanding. And no doubt venturing out the galactic arm as it ages. That's why there's Earths out on the outer reaches. And perhaps, again, those ones on the very outer reaches, especially the one I recall, the reality I recall, that solar system was off the plane of the galactic arm as well. So, it was very, very unusual. So perhaps that's what's happening, is that the Sagittarius arm is calving as we speak, thus making the Mandela Effect happen. So it's very interesting. We just need to sit tight and see what it is indeed ushering in. No doubt we can probably try to guess what it is, and we'll never guess it. It'll be a big surprise, just like the Mandela Effect was, when it started. Perhaps some of you, it's just now realizing you're affected, but it's been going on since, I think the first time it happened was around 2010, when a group of people were affected that recall Nelson Mandela perishing in prison. Now, we all live in realities where that happened, but we're oblivious to it. But obviously that happened in some realities. And it was those, that's why the name came about. So really, that's a really good namesake, because if that's the case, and obviously it is, because these people, just like us, they recall their reality where Nelson Mandela perished in prison. And of course, every reality that this portion of my soul has visited, and who knows how many that is, who knows how many times we're shifting. I always liken it to musical chairs. When it happens, all of their soul portions shift at the same time when the music stops. we wind up in the different reality. But Nelson Mandela is a good namesake because think about it. There's some realities where he perished in prison. There's some realities where he was liberated from prison and ascended to presidency of South Africa. And those are the realities I recall, not only the one I originated from, this portion of my soul, but also in every reality thus far that I've gone to. But I do know that I'm in those realities where he perished in prison. We all are. We just don't know it. We're totally oblivious to it because we'll always keep the portion of our soul we were born with. We will always cherish and keep those memories, just like every other portion of your soul has their own unique memories from their own reality. But they're all, for the most part, virtually identical. You know, basically, if you go like this, you know, every replica version of yourself is going like this too, at the exact same time, instantaneously. Except maybe the ones that are 75,000 light years from you, there might be a slight delay, a galactic delay, I call it. And that, there you go, like I said before, explains deja vu. That's why we all experience deja vu at some point or another. You know, when you feel like you've been there before, but you know you haven't. Well, in reality, you have been there before. There's a replica version of yourself that entered that room a split second, or perhaps 2 minutes, or 30 seconds, or 30 minutes, or who knows, before you did. Thereby giving every portion of your soul that sensation of deja vu, even the one that a portion of your soul and replica version of yourself in that reality that did indeed walk into that room first. Because that's something I've realized early on, is there's no driving soul portion. Just because you're experiencing the Mandela Effect doesn't mean your soul is the one in the lead. Because you got to remember, every portion of your soul, every replica version of yourself is experiencing the exact identical thing you are at the exact identical time. And it's also important to realize that you can't bring anything with you. It's kind of like when you die, nothing goes with you. When you shift into another reality, this quantum shift, you can't bring anything with you either. Everything stays. Your body stays. Everything material and tangible stays. Only your soul portion is transversing the galaxy. And like I said, in some cases, 75,000 light years. That's insane. You know, and it's just, these kittens. I started the video when they were starting to take their nap, and they finally are. But you know, everything I do, they still want to wake up, and you know. But it's amazing to look at these kittens and understand that they too have a parallel life, and they too have replica versions of themselves sharing their soul. That's how they're able to do things, and you know, it's remarkable. And they couldn't, I mean, none of us could exist without this quantum entanglement. And I was getting at earlier, is it's always been this way. Even the dinosaurs had a parallel existence. So it's just remarkable. It's part of life. It's something that's been kept secret for whatever reason. I don't know, perhaps to be revealed at a specific time, which is now. Like I said, it started back in, I think I heard 2010. I didn't realize I was affected till 2016. I thought I was part of the what was it? I used to even remember the name of the experiment at CERN that particular June that summer. You know, I thought it was that experiment, the Wakefield experiment or something, Wheatfield or something experiment. I thought it was that did it. But again, I realized that this is too big of a thing for something for humans to trigger just by experimenting. What's ironic is they're spending billions of dollars just to get the meaning of life when the Mandela Effect is showing us for free. Now, I know there was even like, you know, celebrations that CERN was doing, and some of them, the scientists were wearing breastplates indicating the Mandela Effect, and this, you know, in a sense, taking credit, but in reality, they were just making a big joke about the whole thing because they were being accused of instigating starting the Mandela Effect. So to them, it was all just a big joke. That's why they were wearing them breastplates and things like that, because it was just a big joke to them. And of course, they know that they couldn't have done it. There's no way. Just by experimenting, or quantum computers, there's just no way. In fact, again, that's the ironic thing. They're looking and searching for the answers of life, and getting to the beginning of the so-called Big Bang theory. I call it the Big Boo-Boo theory. It's ridiculous. Even the name is ridiculous. And then it's important to realize that in that name is theory. It's a theory. And, of course, they're way off. And the Mandela Effect's revealing that quantum entanglement is what it's about. And everything is expanding. And it's also revealing that gravity is not king. Of course, gravity exists, but it's just a byproduct of our electromagnetic nature of our universe. And that's what the Mandela Effect's revealing. It's just remarkable. We're getting like a lot of wind outside, so if you hear anything, but yeah, the Mandela Effect was meant to be revealing. It was meant for us to realize, again, it was also, I believe, also meant to be a conundrum, if you will. But those who really, 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 I did. I know I did. I like I said, I got tired of what the videos about what the Mandela Effect's doing. I wanted to get into the meat and potatoes and really understand what is going on here. The obvious conclusion is, for starters, we have to realize that our soul and our being is one. Of course, you are one person, of course. But it's quite obvious that our soul is splintered and fractured, and that each portion is fiercely independent. It's obvious because, there was obviously a portion of my soul in this replica version of myself from day one. Where is that portion? It's obviously in another replica version of myself, experiencing the exact same thing I am. So it's like that's the first thing we have to really basically realize, that our soul is splintered and fractured. Then it starts really making sense, when we think about it. And that we're constantly connected on a subconscious level to every replica version of ourselves, regardless of how many it may be. Again, I'm sure it's approaching infinity if it isn't infinite. You're constantly connected, but yet they're fiercely independent. Isn't that amazing when you think about it? And that's what makes us who we are. And we wouldn't exist without it. There's so many things I always wondered about, like auto racing. And, it's amazing they don't pile up more often than they do. And the reason they don't is that it's that quantum entanglement and that practice. And, and the more you concentrate on things, the more things happen. And that's because when you concentrate, every portion of your soul that you're constantly connected to on a subconscious level is doing and concentrating as well. So then, and it also, think about it. A lot of people have heard me talk about all this stuff before. There's only so many things you can say. This is the adult cat walking by now. There's only so many things you can say, to start repeating yourself. See, they distracted me. But it's remarkable to realize that all life, even that cat that walked in front of me in every single reality. But when you really, really, really concentrate real hard, that's why you get things done. But now we understand why. And also, that's what I was getting at. Another mystery to humanity is why, not just humans, but even these cats here, why do we all have that REM, rapid eye movement, sleep? It's still a mystery. They do understand that if you don't achieve it on a regular basis, then you're incoherent. It's bad for you, really bad. You have to have it. And boom, the Mandela Effect has revealed it. That's the only time during the day when every portion of your soul is in synchronization. You're in sync in REM. But, here, and I brought up videos about this. Now, on some of these realities, the continent, the continent of South America, is in a completely different time zone. So what is that going to do to all life, or especially humans who invented time, who live on time? Keep in mind, I mean, seriously, humans invented time. I mean, I could do a whole video about time. It's incredible. The Mandela Effect's revealing that quite obviously it's irrelevant, along with space. Space and time are irrelevant because it's proving to us that distance doesn't matter. We have replica versions of ourselves doing the exact same thing you are, or you're doing the exact same thing they are, that are 75,000 light years away. Think about that. So it's irrelevant. Time is irrelevant. Again, we've made it up in the spirit realm. There's no such thing as time. And I think that in this realm, there really shouldn't be, But again, I think about those lives and the continent of South America. They have realities where they're in the Pacific time zone, and then they have also realities that they're constantly connected to on a subconscious level that are in the Eastern time zone. Think about that, 4 hours difference. So it must be very difficult for those people in those continents, or that continent, let's say South America, for them to achieve REM sleep. I mean, I always wondered why people down there in South America always have to have a fiesta or a nap or things like that. I always wondered why that was. It's interesting when you think about it. I always thought it was the heat and things like that, but it gets hot up here too in North America. You don't catch me napping in the heat. But I always wondered about that. But again, that's one of the things that I always wondered about that's answered because of the fact that they have realities where there's four. I mean, I remember being in a reality where Central America was only off by about, further east than North America, but by only a few hundred miles. But it's always the Isthmus of Panama that's different. I love that about the Panama Canal. I can do a whole video about that too. But, the people that live, of course, the reality I recall, the Sagittarius super Earth reality, I like to call it, South America was directly, straight south of us. In fact, the Isthmus of Panama was straight north and south, along with Central America, and of course Mexico being part of North America. But Central America was straight up and down, and South America was just straight south of us. And here it's off by 2,400 miles. I remember a reality where it was off like 600 miles. So they actually have, they have to. Again, it must be very difficult for the people in that continent to achieve REM sleep in a consistent, good, regular basis as needed. And perhaps that's why there's always so much, I'm trying to word it right, why they just, as a continent as a whole, can't get their act together. There's no reason why any one of those countries couldn't be a superpower, but they're not. They're always in turmoil. There's always, like Peru right now, they're having major problems. But that's a good example there. I remember Peru being in the Pacific time zone, but here it's in the Eastern time zone. So, that's no doubt. And keep in mind that they, too, whether any of them are affected with the Mandela effect or not, it doesn't matter. The fact is everybody has that quantum connection with their splintered and fractured soul portions throughout the galaxy, regardless of the size of the Earth, regardless of what time zone they're in. But they do still have to, sleep. They try to sleep at nighttime. But there's still other, when they, like right now, it's like already going on, let's just say noon in Peru, but in other places, they haven't even woke up yet. And they're constantly connected with those other realities on a subconscious level. Think about that. It's fascinating. So many things are explained. I've done hundreds. I used to have a channel. Those of you who weren't aware of it, I had a channel called Terrors of the Milky Way, and I still do. I call it Plurality of Earth, though, because who would have ever thought that Earth would have a plural to it? There's not even a spelling for it, but there is. We have realities, whether they're only in the Sagittarius and Orion arm, which are one and the same, or the entire galaxy. Who knows? Or who knows if there's other realities that are vastly different, but with the same human conditions. It's interesting. But the fact is it's proving that it's human beings that are really the big show in the galaxy. We are it. We are the pinnacle of creation in the galaxy. And all those other beings that say they come from another portion of the galaxy, they like to look up at Perseus or the Pleiades or Orion or whatever and say they're from there. Well, that's true, they are. But they fail to mention that you are there too. Think about that. You're there too. They're not going to tell you that. This is something that's been kept secret for humanity for a reason. And the main reason is the powers that be don't want us to know that. Because it is very enlightening. It is very empowering. It is everything. It literally is. The Mandela Effect is revealing everything there is that needs to know about everything. And it's remarkable. I'm not saying, I'm not even, I don't even have a high school diploma. I'm a high school dropout. So if I can figure it out, anybody can. In fact, the problem is, and I see this a lot even at work, is people have a tendency to overcomplicate everything. And this is a prime example. This is as complicated as it is. It's really not. Because again, it's always been this way. It's just never known. It's basically a secret that's never been shown before. And as spiritual as it is, again, it has to be very holy, very spiritual event. And, I like to say those of us that are experiencing the Mandela Effect have more knowledge of spirituality than any pope that has ever lived. All of them combined. Just by experiencing the Mandela Effect, it's showing us just how incredible us human beings are and should be, but aren't yet. And perhaps maybe that's something it's ushering in. Maybe it's going to usher in perfection. Because why, that's another thing I always wondered. Why are we imperfect? Who said that we are imperfect? Who set the gauge for perfection? Obviously, there is a perfection side that nobody knows about, but yet we're always proclaimed as being imperfect and using that as an excuse for our, failures. We're imperfect. Well, so what does that mean? We're supposed to be perfect, or we were perfect? Are we going to be perfect? Who knows? And by that I mean perfection. What I mean is basically living forever. There's no reason why turtles and stuff should live longer than humans, especially since the Mandela Effect's revealing we are the pinnacle of creation, and there's no getting around that. We are the show in the Milky Way galaxy. That's why everybody's making a big fuss over us. That's why those so-called aliens, try to tell us that they're from another part of the galaxy, from another planet. I know that's impossible, because the Earths in the Milky Way galaxy are the planets with life on them. Yes, the galaxy is full of life, but it's us. Think about that. everything we do is galactic. And I remember even when my wife died, we were married for 30 years, and she perished, and I was grieving, and I remember my grieving felt galactic, and this was before I even heard of the Mandela Effect, or let alone knowing I was going to be affected with it. But I somehow felt that my grieving and mourning was galactic, and that was very strange, especially now realizing that indeed it was. This cat meowing we call Chatty Patty, they call her that for nothing. She's meowed just like that in every reality. She has a parallel existence. All life has a parallel existence. Like even the trees and vegetation, everything has a parallel existence, which basically says, hey, wow, those, animate objects have a soul as well, too. I mean, that's crazy, because you can't have this parallel existence without a soul. The soul is the big equation in all this. It does indeed exist throughout the galaxy. It's in a splintered and fractured. I mean, what's amazing is when I realized that our soul was splintered and fractured, I had no idea that there were others out there that believe that, they're not affected with the Mandela Effect. Nobody showed them the fact that, like the Mandela Effect, showing us that our soul is splintered and fractured. But before I came to that obvious conclusion, I realized that there are organizations out there and groups of people out there that already have been saying this, that our soul is splintered and fractured. Of course, they don't know where the other portions are. They think they're in other dimensions and things like that. Which again, I have to remind you that everything is parallel, including the other dimensions, because we see the paranormal things happening in every reality. So basically, heaven is parallel too. A spiritual realm is parallel. Everything is parallel. So each reality has its own heaven, if you will. And how do we know this? Nelson Mandela. We know he perished in other realities. So what happened to that portion of his soul? It didn't go intermingle with the other portions of his soul that are still, coalesced into a living Nelson Mandela's. Because then otherwise he would have changed and felt different and things like that. But besides, each body can only hold one portion of your soul. So what happened to that portion of the soul in Nelson Mandela where he perished? It went to that reality's heaven. And you probably would never get rebirthed until every portion of your soul and every replica version of yourself perishes. Your soul doesn't perish. It's infinite. It's immortal. And so what happens, that proves that each reality has its own heaven or spiritual realm. And so that's really interesting, think about it. And the Mandela Effect is revealing this. We should be excited about this knowledge and not scared and homesick and saying it's okay to ask what the fuck is going on. It's okay to ask that. But that's the first thing I ask. I was scared. It freaked me out. I had nowhere to go. I had nobody to talk to except the guy upstairs, or whatever that is upstairs, the creator of the soul, whatever it is. Are we in its likeness? Probably. But I went straight to the source and begged for answers, and begged and begged and begged for hours and for days and for hours, because that's the only comfort I can get. And then things started to come, again, they weren't just given to you. The answer, they didn't say this is the way it is just because I prayed for it. You had to look. Again, there's, use Sherlock Holmes methodology. Eliminate the things that are impossible, and whatever's left, as improbable as it is, has to be the answer. And whatever's left is, well, duh, I've always been in this reality. There's no getting around that. And duh, this reality is like totally different. But yet the same. You know, I remember when I first realized that I was actually go outside and touch the trees, and yep, they're solid. They're here. The ground's solid. It's here. There's oxygen I'm breathing. It's here. But it's the fact that I mean, that's why it's really cool that this reality's in the Orion arm, in the inner Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy, because it proves that our realities are separated by distance, not by dimensions. We're not in another dimension that has the same galaxy, because why would it be in a different location then? That's what's so neat about the Mandela Effect, is it's clearly showing us these things. And by getting a better understanding, I'm still learning stuff. Like every time I do something and almost like drop something, for example, I'll think, wow, I wonder if in some other realities I actually dropped it. And then in that reality, I have to stop and pick it up. And, wow, this reality, I'm moving on to the next step. It's interesting, but at the end of the day, everything still comes together. Like, for example, some of the battles, I study World War II. I did in the reality I recall before the Mandela Effect even came around. So I had great knowledge of battles of World War II. Well, the battles here are vastly different because, for one thing, the geography is vastly different. But some of the battles are very different, but yet the outcome always remains the same. So it always comes back to that. One good example is when the Bismarck sunk the Hood. Now, the reality I recall, it also sunk the state-of-the-art, brand new HMS Prince of Wales as well in the same battle. And it was just shocking. They even made a movie about it. We have to sink the Bismarck. Well, they made the same movie here and everything. But in this reality, they didn't sink the HMS Prince of Wales. They only sunk the Hood. In every reality, only 3 survivors, too. That's amazing, in the Hood. But in this reality and the many others, the Prince of Wales got away. But ultimately, just a few months later, it was sunk by a Japanese torpedo from a Japanese submarine. So its fate was set already, and it ultimately, everybody that perished in the Prince of Wales, from the Bismarck sunk it, perished in these realities a few months later by a different enemy, but Axis powers. It's just amazing. But the outcome always remains the same. So that's what's really cool about the Mandela Effect, what it's revealing. Basically, ultimately, it's revealing that quantum entanglement is the basic fundamental foundation of existence, period. And we can get a lot of understanding about humanity by knowing all this. And again, I wasn't given the answers. The answers are right in front of our face. I'm not telling you. It's the Mandela Effect showing you. It's obvious that we're in another reality. There's no denying that. It's obvious that we've always existed here. There's no denying that. So what does that tell you? Wow, my soul was in this reality. Obviously it was and is. So don't be homesick. You're home. Regardless of what reality you're in, you are home. And that's what's really remarkable about what the Mandela Effect is revealing. Now think about that. It doesn't change anything. Like I said, you got to basically go about your life as though this isn't happening. That's why I do videos about remodeling this mobile home in South Haven, Michigan. And because life goes on. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't go babbling on about it because most of the people around us don't know what the heck you're talking about. Because keep in mind, they're not affected. So they still have their original portion of their soul they were born with. So to them, everything's always been like this. So we have to understand that. And understanding that helps us to, realize why they don't see what we perceive as changes. But really they're just different. So again, that's the big question, and I kind of delved in that early on, is why is it only affecting, let's just say 1% of the population? It's probably who knows what it is, really? Because, again, there might be so many people that are affected and don't even realize it. Because that's easy. You could be oblivious of what's going around. Like a lot of times you walk in a store or something, and you go in the aisle where you think there's a product because you know it's there, but it's not. It's in another aisle. You just assume they just rearranged the store. But in reality, they didn't, So some people could be affected and not even realize it, because if you think about it, it'd be like, it's crazy. Why would it change? Why would it be different, because you assume that we have this singular existence and a singular reality on a singular earth. You just assume that we were raised and born, taught that, and all this and that. So it'd be easy to overlook what we perceive as changes. So who knows how many people are affected? So that's a big question. Why is it just some of us that are affected? I honestly think that we are all candidates for something. Maybe the 144,000. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not saying I'm any of that. We're all candidates for that, if that's what indeed it is. Again, it's a mystery as to why. That's something that's not revealing, really, is why it's just happening to some of us. I think a lot of it is to add to the perplexing nature of it. I think it was meant to be a riddle, and the fact that, and also it's comforting to know that you're not the only one as well. But why is it just some of us compared to a majority who isn't affected? The majority who still has the soul, this portion of the soul they were born with. So everything's exactly the same to them. Earth has always been this big, always been in this location of the Milky Way galaxy, things like that. So we have to have an understanding of that, and then also realize that it's an education we're getting, not a terror. Some people, again, feel like, oh, how dare, my soul be ripped from my reality and put into another, I didn't ask for this and things like this and that, to me, I immediately, when I realized it was something very holy, it's something that we should all be really proud to be a part of. And then once you have that comfort and understanding, it makes things a lot easier. Again, there's not really much we could do about it. You could go to every, astrophysicist and tell them that the entire Milky Way galaxy is habitable because we've been shown that. They're not going to believe a word you say. They're going to think you're nuts. But the reality is we are being shown. We know more than astrophysicists, and I'm not even a physicist, let alone an astrophysicist. Again, I mentioned again, I high school dropout. I got my education on the School of Hard Knocks. So you don't have to be educated to get an education of what the Mandela Effect's revealing. It's astonishing. But again, you're not going to convince anybody unless they experience it themselves. So, you can't just go, don't you see that change? It just changed. Don't you remember it used to be like this? And don't get mad at them because they don't know what the heck you're talking about. Because, again, it's always, this reality is the reality they were born in. They'll always, nothing's different or changed to them whatsoever. So they're going to look at you like you're nuts. I often think about they say the poor bastard that goes through the Panama Canal on a regular basis. Could you imagine one of those people, helmsman or captain or officer on any cargo ship that goes through there on a regular basis, and they just so happen to be affected with the Mandela Effect? They would actually think that the compass is broke, because in this reality, you actually have to go west to get to the Atlantic Ocean. And there's one point in the middle of the canal where you're going the opposite direction, literally, to go west to get to the Atlantic Ocean. You go east to get to the Pacific Ocean. That's totally opposite. Now, could you imagine being a helmsman and affected with the Mandela Effect, and you shift into a reality where it's backwards? The direction is backwards, and you start trying to tell your shipmates what's going on. they would, put you in a straitjacket. So, I often put myself in the shoes of people like that. What if there was a doctor, and I know there are, that are affected, and they go to do a heart surgery, and they're like, whoa, how come the heart's in the center of the chest? It's supposed to be off-center to the left. It's smaller and things like that, and organs are different, the skeleton's different, everything's different. Internally, mostly. A lot of external things are almost identical. But, again, I'm just glad I'm basically a nobody that's affected, because every reality is virtually identical in my case. And I know it's not typical. But regardless, the Mandela Effect is showing us we should consider it a privilege. There's no reason to be homesick. Understand when your spouse, obviously, there's some people that are together, that experience in the Mandela Effect, that's a lot easier. But can you imagine having a spouse? A lot of divorces and things are happening over this. But we have to understand our, spouse, they've always been in this reality. So that to them, nothing's ever going to be different. And if you shift into another reality and they're still there, unaffected, they're going to always be there in every reality for the most part. I'm not saying that, there's some realities where we don't even exist in. That's quite apparent. Again, Nelson Mandela is a perfect namesake for this phenomenon. Perfect. Because we know he didn't exist in every reality. He perished in prison in some realities. Probably millions and billions of realities. And millions and billions or billions of realities, he, was liberated from prison and ascended to president of South Africa. Think about that. So, maybe that's why he was able to excel in the realities where he didn't perish, and excel, after he was liberated from prison and become the president of South Africa, is because there was other portions of his soul he was connected to that perished in other realities, but those soul portions that he's going to constantly be connected to on a subconscious level are in that spirit realm in those realities, which would maybe give him an edge. Think about that. Very interesting, isn't it? And so, I kind of threw babbling. I know a lot of you have heard all this stuff before. I can go on all day about this. And then we haven't even touched on a lot of things like residual evidence. I mentioned that you can't bring anything with you, so what is the residual evidence? Bottom line is it's unwittingly left by us. Think about it. Because there are, logo designers are all, they're going to have 20, 30 different designs to choose from. In some realities, they choose one, and some they choose the other, but they're going to keep all of them as a memento or whatever. They don't destroy them. Some, places like the United States Mint will. So they're going to be, residual evidence is going to be there. That's what's so cool about this theory, is it explains, everything is explained by this theory. The theory being we all have a parallel existence on a multitude of Earths, or we all have a parallel existence in a multitude of realities. So it explains everything, including residual evidence. Time is another one I'd love to talk about. We touched on it a little bit with South America. Time zones being, invented by humans. Maybe before that, they weren't so concerned about time, they were able to achieve that REM sleep on a consistent basis, a regular basis. So I think I'll end it here, and thanks for listening to me babble again. I can go on and on about this forever. I'll allow comments, but if you don't, I'm not saying I have all the answers, and just because I see it the way I do doesn't mean it's correct. You can come up with your own conclusions, but you're not going to convince me otherwise. And, so don't, if you're going to make a comment, just be nice. I was always taught, if you can't say anything nice, don't say it, because there's a lot of times where I want to gripe and complain about something, but it's not nice, so I don't say anything. You know, I tried to tell some of the channels I listened to early on before I started my own, you know, that, hey, you're barking up the wrong tree and stuff like that. You know, but that's as far as I would go. But I don't, you know, I don't expect you to believe me. And if you don't, just leave it at that, you know. But I had to stop comments for the longest time because it was just getting too much. I was getting death threats and everything. And I don't understand it because this theory is so, there's basically good news. It's happy, it's positive, it's righteous, everything, you know, nice. But yet the haters are out there. They just hate hearing it. Everybody just wants to hear the cynical side, the sinister side of it, the bad things that it represents, or could represent. Again, I'm convinced it was meant to be a conundrum. So that's part of it, you know, the riddle, you know, because it's a secret. It's something that's been kept secret forever until now, until the Mandela Effect's revealing it. It's not, again, not telling us, not some voice coming on saying, this is the way it is. It's showing us beyond a shadow of a doubt. And then once you realize that, everything becomes very obvious. So anyway, with that, I thank you for watching, and I'll talk at you later. Love you.